Hey, I'm Nate Flax.
I'm Noah Longworth McGuire.
And this is Talking Lion.
Talking Lion is a podcast focused on artist-to-artist conversation.
We're primarily artists, a duo called Sleeping Lion, but we've been lucky enough to write, produce, and hang out with so many incredible rising artists since we started our project.
Whether it's at sessions or parties over cups of coffee, we've talked with our creative friends about everything. Music, life, love, and all the subtle complexities that come with being in the middle of a journey.
Talking Lion is about hitting record on these conversations and sharing them with you. There's no real structure, nothing really prepared, just friends talking about life and what it's been like and where it's going.
We now have a Patreon for fans of our show to help keep this going. Subscribers will become a part of the show in various ways, from providing questions to our guests, to getting a shout out on the show, to actually being on the show to chat with us. We'll even send you a mug.
So check out our Patreon at patreon.com/talkinglion.
We recorded this episode with our new friend, Steven.
We first connected with Steven through his publicist, Nate, but realized while recording this interview that we had actually met once before at a show.
Some context for this interview. Steven had taken a break from making music to recover from Lyme disease, but is now starting to release songs again, including his most recent single, Tracer.
An incredibly talented and driven producer and writer, Steven has proven that he is an unstoppable force. So,
without further ado,
I'm Steven, and this is Talking Lion.
Well, hey.
Howdy.
Welcome to the podcast, man.
It's good to be here.
We were just sort of realizing that even though this was set up by our mutual friend and your publicist, that we'd actually met once before at the Moroccan Lounge when Sasha Sloan played. She's crazy talented.
That was a great show.
Insane, dude. Insane. I was trying to figure out the whole time if she was using auto-tune or not, because she did not miss a single note.
Yeah, no, it was like perfect. It was like insanely perfect.
It sounded like a studio recording.
Too.
Yeah, so delicate. I mean, yeah, blown away.
It's so good. But you know Dwilly, who we went to school with.
Of course, yeah. I met Dwilly about a year ago. The rock climbing gym.
He's super crazy talented. Oh yeah, you rock climb.
Yeah. I do.
Have you like traveled for rock climbing?
I mean, very little. I'm relatively amateur, I would say, like very beginner. I've gone outside like 3 times now. Your
full name is Steven Schwartz. Are you a Broadway fan by any chance?
No, but I'm aware of the situation.
So I was thinking, I'm like, I grew up with like Pippin and Wicked, and so that was like definitely there.
I actually didn't know what Wicked was until I put out music and would like search things under my name to see if they were aggregating, and then I'd be like, who is this guy?
Why is he taking all the
He's taking the torch, man.
Where are you from originally?
I'm from Northern Virginia.
Oh wow.
A town called Vienna, just south of DC.
How long were you in like Virginia for?
Until I went to college. I was there. I pretty much lived in the same house my whole life. The house my parents still live in. I still go back and see them in it. And I was there till I was 18, and then I went to University of Miami.
Did you have siblings?
I have a younger brother. Yeah.
Nice. When you were younger, were you very musical? Where did the sort of bug kind of come from?
You know, I wonder that myself. What is the root of our desires, and where do our desires stem from? Especially when we're that young. I mean, dude, my earliest memory is sitting on my grandfather's lap, pressing buttons on a piano, having no idea what a piano was or what it is. I think I was like 2 years old, and I think I started taking piano lessons when I was 5 or 6. I just randomly told my mom one day that's what I wanted to do. She was like, all right.
I think you bring up an interesting thing, because we both started really young.
Yeah, I started around that age too.
I think I always ask myself the question, is just like, I never remember making that decision that wound up being one of the most important decisions of my entire life. It wasn't even the most important decision of my entire life. It was my entire life decision.
Yeah, I don't even think it is. At a certain point, it's not even a decision. It's kind of just like your ethos as a person, the thing you gravitate towards.
Yeah. I mean, the older and older I get, the more I feel like I'm just watching a movie that's already been written.
Yeah.
And the writer's pretty hacky sometimes too. You ever like have something happen in your life and you're just like, this could have been written better?
Yeah. Yeah,
for
sure.
Like, this is a bit cliche, is it not?
Cliche, is it not? A bit lazy on the writing.
We need a rewrite here.
Global pandemic, like lazy writing. Come on, can we get something better?
It feels like the writer's strike. Remember the writer's strike when all the shows, like a couple of shows, tried to like stagger along.
Whoever wrote Our Collective Life wants a bottle episode. They just want all of us inside so they can
focus on our character development.
Truly.
I'd say you guys are pretty good characters. I like it so far.
I appreciate it. Hey, likewise. Do you have a quarantine?
Quarantine? I like that.
Yeah. Do you have a quarantine?
I mean, sort of. Yeah. I mean, I got my cousin Harrison, who I live with. He's like my life team.
Is he musical as well?
Yeah. He's out here producing and writing and being an artist as well.
That's awesome. What's his artist project called?
He doesn't have a name for it yet. He's developing it currently. He's got pretty much an album at this point. He's just writing a bunch of music. He's been out here like just fresh out of college, like hustling and trying to make the dream happen, you know?
Well, hey, if he ever wants to chat with us, he's always welcome.
I'm sure he'll be on, dude. He's an incredible person, and he has a lot to talk about.
Did you guys collaborate much when you guys were younger?
No, we didn't. He actually didn't really discover music till later in his life. Like I'd say the past 5 or 6 years for him. So his father is like an insane musician. His dad's like a crazy. My uncle is a crazy guitar player. So he's got it in his blood, and he's got impeccable taste. So it's just a matter of practice and getting technique, and he's growing. It's insane.
I grew up in a pretty musical family. My grandmother played classical. My father was was a keyboardist for a lot of rock bands. That I think just adds to that whole idea of like how we made our decisions, because if it was just around us, you know,
right?
It's just there, and it's just like kind of low hanging fruit that you wind up going for.
Yeah, music was just the thing that I was good at. It was the thing that I was best at. So I was just like, people kept encouraging me to do it because they're like, oh, you're like a little bit above average. And I was like, cool, I'm just going to ride this wave for as far as it'll take me.
Did you always sing, or were you more of like did you focus more on instruments? Because I think we both started focusing more on instruments, and then singing kind of came back.
I was not really a singer. I mean, if I'm remembering correctly, I did sing when I was younger. I remember in elementary school, I was like in the vocal ensemble, and when I went to church, I sang in the church choir, but I didn't really like it, and I didn't really think I was very good at it, and I stopped singing for like a very long time, and I became like I just became really insecure. Even like I wouldn't even sing in the shower, even though I kind of secretly wanted to. I was just like, I'm not a singer. That's not me. And then, dude, I remember what really fucked me up was like when American Idol and those shows started coming out.
Oh,
and people would go in, and it turned like this beautiful expression into something that's so criticized and judged. And I would watch it with my mom, who's a singer, and she would always be calling out singers for singing flat and out of tune, even like the really good ones. And I was just like, Jesus, like I'm never gonna be a singer. There's no way I can do this.
It's fine. I never really like presenced it, but yeah, like that was always just sort of a heartbreaking thing, realizing that like I felt like I always sang expressively, but I never sang like quote unquote well in that space. And I think it was actually really inspiring to hear vocalists like Isaac Slade from The Fray, or even Bon Iver, who, you know, has a beautiful voice, but it's a different kind of voice.
Yeah.
Than like, you know, because we were told that male singers sound like this and female singers sound like this, and finding singers that are able to just sort of own their expression has always been really interesting. That's what I like really about your voice. It's like you're a great singer, hands down, but you're also distinctively you, which is why you know you're able to one just sort of own your songs, but also why features happen and why whatever. Like
totally, man.
You went to University of Miami?
Correct.
What did you study while you were there?
I switched majors halfway through. When I first got there, I was a music engineer, which isn't what it sounds like. My program was designed to train me for like a job at Native Instruments or something like that.
Like, interesting.
Like real
design, like soldering audio technology and programming audio plugins with like a little bit of music on the side. I had to be in the music school too. So I was in the Frost School of Music as a jazz drummer. And yeah, dude, it was so intense. I mean, it was so much math. It was a lot. It was like it was like 21 credits. I was also my freshman year, I was like running track. I was running a Division I sport, and that took up like all my time too. So it was like a really busy, hectic schedule. But then my junior year, I switched to media writing and composing, which was like writing music for film and TV.
Oh, nice.
And then I dropped out after my junior year. But like my junior year was like a freaking walk in the park. Like it was just like...
Well, compared to everything else, like you hit your threshold and then pulled back.
Yeah, I went from doing math and like having all this homework to like just writing music all day. Yeah, that was a nice year for sure. And it also gave me a lot of time that year to like work on the stuff that really brought me out to LA and got me to like take that step.
Was it around the time that you did Bullet Train?
Yeah, Bullet Train was done my sophomore year, and I put it out the summer right before my junior year.
How did Bullet Train kind of come to be, and what was it sort of like to see that song grow?
Oh man, it was an amazing blessing for sure. I was not ready to write that song. My skills and where I was at, like if you listen to all the songs before Bullet Train and then listen to some of the songs I made after Bullet Train, it was like this was my progress growing, and then Bullet Train was like this spike and like making a quality, amazing song.
It just happens sometimes.
Yeah, man. It was really cool. I mean, it was definitely the most work I had ever put into a song up until that point. So that's probably part of it. But the way it happened, man, was like I was doing live sound for a performance at Miami. I was like doing front of house. And
cool.
I heard Joni perform. It was like a songwriter showcase at the school. And Joni performed this song called Monsters. And I didn't even know her or anything. And I was like, yo, this girl's voice is like insane.
Yeah, her voice is nuts.
I was just like instantly emotionally captivated. And I went home, I think, right after that concert and started writing the instrumental to Bullet Train, imagining it for her. And I think I wrapped it in like a day or 2 or 3 or something, and then sent it over to her. And like an hour later, she sent me back like the main top line. Moving at the speed of sound, you know, like fucking insane. And she was like, let me know if you want me to write it again. Like I did this really fast. It's about riding bullet trains in Japan. And I remember it was also the first time I had ever smoked hashish. I was like at my friend's house who was like this like California surfer bro. He's like, yo, you gotta smoke this hash, man. I'm just gonna put it on the bowl. It's gonna be crazy, dude. And
find enlightenment.
And it's like, I swear, I like hit the bowl. I felt like this euphoric, stoned feeling, and then I look at my phone, and I got an email from Joni, and I put it on, and I just like, I saw the vision of what it could be, you know? The instrumental I had made none of it ended up actually being the final thing, and her vocal was like recorded on like a microphone on a laptop, you know? But I could like hear it. I was like, oh my God, I can hear what this could be now. And then we tracked the vocal in a proper studio. And I went home for Christmas break and like produced the whole song. I like stripped everything, started with just her voice, and produced the song around her vocal in my parents' basement.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I love what you say about like you could just hear it. Like I feel like the mark of a good producer, whether or not you're somebody who actually like is in the DAW or somebody who's just involved in the process, like a capital B producer hears what the song could be from like the jump. You know, like here's what the song can kind of like evolve into, even if like the original track is not what winds up staying or anything. It's like building the track around an idea as opposed to just hearing it for what it is.
Exactly. Well, I mean, that's what writes great songs is like vision and passion, dude. Like, because I do think that like having great ideas, my old manager had a quote on all of his emails. He said, ideas are a dime a dozen, execution is everything, or something like that.
Oh,
and like
that.
so much of what we do in our industries, in any creative endeavor, is like we have ideas, but ideas literally mean nothing. It's if you can execute the ideas and if you can see them through, which is really difficult for a creative, because the more that we listen to something, the more that we live with it, the more disconnected we become from the emotional impetus that started it.
Yeah.
Well, and likewise, it's not as fun executing something as it is actually having the idea.
Yeah.
Like the idea is the burst of inspiration. It's the excitement. It's like writing it down and planning it. Like actually executing is what takes the most kind of like actual work.
Yeah,
takes a lot of work.
That's the math. That's the Excel spreadsheet of like, I'm gonna nudge this vocal 10 milliseconds.
Yeah.
I'm gonna like tweak this synth until it feels intuitively right for days on end.
And I feel like the more, not to mention that ideas don't stop. So like as you're trying to execute it, you're suddenly you can be tempted and seduced by like a shinier new idea.
Oh, absolutely, so easy. But
if anything, that's the benefit of like this kind of like quarantine time, is that it gives us all a chance to like either have plenty of new ideas or go back and revisit the stuff that like maybe lost its shimmer, but like didn't mean it didn't shine to begin with, you know?
Sure. Yeah, that's really difficult for me, actually. That's something I've learned the hard way over years and years of experience, is like with music, I have to do shit quickly, because there's like a 72-hour guillotine where if I haven't gotten enough of the body out like within that period of time, like if you can't hear the song at that point, if it's still existing in an idea, then it's really hard to see it through, and it's really hard to come back to things and like remember the intention of it.
Well, same goes for writing for artists. Like they could be about the song in the room, and then if you don't get a demo over, or if you don't like build on like the hype that you've created in the session, they've already moved on to whatever session they're on to. You know, then they're not going to cut the song. Like so much of like trying to have somebody else cut a song or even cut your own song is being able to keep that hype alive after the actual creation has stopped.
It's true, man. I think I must have thousands of ideas, little beats, little loops, songs anywhere from an idea to like an almost finished, completed song. And nothing has ever done anything for me in this career except for finished music, finished things. I've never had a beat that someone was like, yo, I want to sing on that. Or I've never had like a cool concept or anything. It always has to be like completely finished. I don't think that's the case for everyone, but that's how it's been for me.
Well, we talk about this a lot, and one of the things like that we kind of always kind of catch all it with is these are good problems. Like I'd rather have this than like have writer's block. Like I don't necessarily know the concept of it because I feel like I'm always constantly coming up with stuff, and I'd love a block. Like I mean, knock on wood, actually, but like I would love to have, you know, just a second where my brain could shut off and I can focus on what's right in front of me. Because you're right, execution there is that 72 hours until you move on. And oftentimes like Noah will play a song and I'll be like, oh, that's like kind of pretty and cool. And he'd be like, yeah, we wrote that like a month ago.
Yeah, when you're in the session grind of writing stuff every day, especially with other people, it's really easy to forget to just not be able to judge how good something is. Like when you're in the mode of like, I just have to get this done and I'm going to move on to the next thing. Like you really have to take a step back and be like, oh, that thing actually stands out. Like that song actually has some heart to it.
I mean, that's something I've discovered too, is I tend to, when I haven't heard something in a while and then I go back and listen to like an idea that I threw out, I'm always like, that shit was really sick. I should have just finished it.
Yeah.
It's nice to realize that because you realize that you're not really capable of writing garbage. Like even your worst stuff is palatable.
Yeah.
Which, and again, like still good problems, but I wish that like things were more discernible garbage. Like I wish that we like, you know, I think we've all like worked to get our stuff to a certain degree of quality, but it's just like, I call it like 50 Shades of Great. Yeah. You know, it's like, I'd rather just like know like what is the best of it. And I feel like it's hard to sort of discern what I like about certain things, which is obviously like a taste thing. But so much I feel of like the actual creation process, quote unquote, is actually curation and like straight up resurrection or cannibalizing ideas and merging them with other stuff that you got.
Oh yeah. Like a human centipede.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
And if not more grotesque.
Oh man, I've never seen it. I've never seen that movie, but I know the trailer.
I think I've seen enough from the trailer.
Yeah, we all know enough.
We all know enough about. Yeah.
You're primarily like you write and produce a lot of stuff by yourself, so you have there's pros and cons to like we work in a duo, so we have like the other person to bounce stuff off of. But I imagine it's like difficult sometimes to like not get tunnel vision when you're working on stuff entirely, where you're at every stage of the process, from the engineering to the writing to the performance.
Do you have people that you like send early stuff to that like you bounce off? Because oftentimes like I leave Noah alone when he comes up with the early stuff so that I can come at it with fresh ears.
Right. Yeah, well, Harrison, my cousin I was telling you about, is a huge support system for me. He's someone I can bounce things off of. And even just having somebody in the room who you trust makes you hear shit differently too. Like you kind of hear it through them. You don't even need their opinion. I've actually gotten to the point right now, I'm in a place right now where I've relied less on other people's opinions over an idea. Right now I generally know what I want and what I like, and when I have it, I know that it's good. That hasn't always been the case.
We're still developing that.
That hasn't always been the case. I don't think it's always going to be the case. I think we probably have seasons. Yeah. But I mean, when I was like creating my first album, it was a shot in the dark every time, dude. And I lived in a house an artist commune practically. You know, there were like a dozen people there at any time.
Well, I feel like, you know, what you were saying too about how you listen to it differently when you show people. I find that like when I send it to somebody or when like I play it for somebody in the room, when I make a note like, oh, hey, ignore this, or like, oh, hey, like we're going to change this. That's how I know, okay, like that's how I feel about the song. Yeah. Like my insecurities about showing it to somebody is how I know what to address when I'm out of the room.
Exactly.
But then, I mean, to play devil's advocate, we used to have a rule in some songwriting classes where you're not allowed to disclaim stuff. And I have found that stuff that I felt insecure about, sometimes when you play it for a group of people are like, that was my favorite part.
It's
true. Then you get this weird disconnect of like, oh, this is something that I was really self-conscious about. But without the baggage of it, someone else might connect to it totally differently.
Well, this is the courage that it takes to be an artist, is I think our best ideas live right outside our comfort zone. And it actually reminds me, I do have a song on this album coming up that... Actually, it's the next single coming out where I'm like rapping on it. I'm like straight up rapping. And it's like really playful and silly, and I'm not taking myself too seriously. And there is like a really deep message in it. It's about video game addiction. That song, I was like, yo, I don't know if this is like super cringe or if this is like absolute genius. It was like, I don't know which one it is. It's one or the other. Yeah. And And I definitely relied on playing that for people to be like, but like very hesitantly. I was like I had to front porch the shit out of the song, meaning like before I played it, I had to be like, all right, look, here's the situation. I don't actually think this is good, all right? Until you think it's good.
Wait, what's a front porch? I've never heard that.
I call it front porching. Like, I mean, everybody does it. It's insane. Like, if someone sends you a song or someone plays you a song they're working on, before they play it, they're like, okay, here's everything you need to know about what's not right yet.
Yeah.
Like, here's what's missing. These are scratch vocals, and like, you know, like I haven't really like figured out the transition between like the bridge and the chorus.
What video game are you addicted to right now?
I'm actually not addicted to anything. I've been pretty off the games. I've been playing a little bit of the new Modern Warfare, the Call of Duty.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah.
I'm playing so casually. I'm playing on like an Xbox with my cousin, like at like midnight when we're both stoned, like not even trying that hard. It's just like, it's not anything too competitive. I get really addicted to games when I get really competitive and I like want to be the best, you know?
Yeah.
I would exclusively play like single player story games so that it would have an end, because I have that like tendencies. Like I did World of Warcraft as a kid. Like I was up until 5 o'clock in the morning doing raids. Like it just, you know, it's just like that was what it was. And League of Legends, same. So I stuck with the single players, but since the quarantine started, we've been on a big Overwatch kick.
Oh, dude, that's my game. I mean, the song's coming out. It's called Tracer.
Wait, are you a Chaser man?
Yeah.
I'm a Chaser Mercy.
Let's go.
But going back, you were talking about your first record. One of our friends, a guy named Sam, he goes by Out There. I think he actually wrote a paper on Crossfire.
Whoa.
And I asked him if he had any questions for you. And he wanted to know, like, what inspired you to well, one, how did the original Crossfire come to be? And then what inspired you to make the 3 versions and pick the collaborators the way you have. I personally love the fact that like part 2 has like the swing to it, while like 3 has that like apocalyptic, almost like cinematic like guitar to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What sort of inspired the beginning of that song, and then the sort of 3-part
the song started
trilogy
with the beat, as did every song on that album. Crossfire was actually the only song on that album that was a co-production. My buddy Graham, who actually did the part 2 as well, was
that Kilogram?
Yeah, Kilogram. Yeah, he was over, and he had he brought his like analog synth with him, and I was like, yo, why don't we just like make some music, dude? Like, let's just hop in the studio for a sec. He's like, all right, let's do it. And like 3 hours later, we had the main part of the beat for Crossfire. Like we just wrote it just poured out, and we were just having so much fun. Then he left, and then I had this beat, and I mean, it instantly, just from the sound and the sort of like haunting motifs of it, and the major one, it just felt like war. The beat just felt like war to me. And at the time, I was like every day going on Reddit or going on like CNN and just understanding world news and like learning about how things work in the world, and being totally disenchanted by the idea that the world is a fair and good place. And I was watching a bunch of Vice documentaries on ISIS, and I think this was like at the pinnacle of like ISIS problems.
Around like 2015, 2016, yeah.
I was also going through an insane existential crisis just in life in general. And all of this research and all this learning was just, I mean, the concept of Crossfire is like, why am I so lucky? How can I enjoy my own happiness and my own luxuries when I know that so many people aren't and can't? I mean, that was what started. Those were the feelings that inspired the lyrics and the melodies and all that. And then the outro came later. I wrote that after the fact. And then the 3 parts, I mean, I think it started from the fact that the song was doing really well. It was definitely like at the time still is my biggest song. And I think one of my managers even had the idea of doing like a remix or something. And I was always, I'm a huge fan of rap, and Talib Kweli is like legend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we found out that we could get him on a song and it wouldn't even be that expensive, and he liked the idea. So that happened. And then
that's awesome.
The insane song came out of that.
What was the sort of thought process behind like, okay, because I know plenty of people when they have like the remix, you know, they'll just take the same beat. Like you swung it, like you did make like distinct changes to each version.
Yeah, well, dude, that whole process was the most dramatic thing conceivable. I don't think, and most people don't know this. So he recorded a verse on just a regular instrumental. And he like started rapping the second the song starts. Like he just started rapping. And it was very like avant-garde, almost like free. It wasn't really in time. It was super loose. And it honestly just like wasn't it. It was just like not what we wanted. And we asked him if he could like rethink it or give us a more like cadenced in time kind of flow. And he's like, nah, like this is like, it was like a work for hire. He's like, no, this is what you get. Like, I'll take my money and this, and you have this now. And so we're like, Jesus, all right, what are we gonna do? So we sent it over to Graham because like I just like didn't want to hear the song anymore. I had been working on the album for so long. And Graham took it, and I was in Joshua Tree actually working on my second album at this point. And Graham took it and like he chopped up his vocals and like put them in time. And the way to put it in time was to give it this swing and to make it feel this other way. And then we made this whole song over it, and we put it out, and Talib Kweli flipped out on us, dude. Like totally burned that bridge. Like he called all of us racists and and like publicly was just like, yo, I don't support this song. Like
because you shifted the
rhythms you know, and like in hindsight, like we should have sent him the song, you know. But the truth is he was like not open to collaboration or feedback. And I mean, we did what we're allowed to do, but the whole thing was really messy, and it was so dramatic. And everybody on my team was like a huge Talib Kweli fan. Wade, one of my managers, has literally a tweet from him hanging on his wall, like reaming out Wade because he thinks it's so funny that his idol just like now hates him.
Damn, yeah.
It's hard to know what the right or wrong is in a situation like that because I think both parties made mistakes.
What about the third part?
The third part was done.
Saba sounds insane on it.
So good.
Like,
dude. Oh my God.
Good.
I mean, insane. Yeah, actually, a lot of that was set up by my someone who worked at my label, Daniel Witkoff, who's like one of my closest friends. I was back home. I was sick. I was like recovering from Lyme disease, and Daniel had a vision for a part 3 to this like sort of narrative and this story. He actually put together a lot of it without me. He got together the artists. He found the producers. I think it was all Chicago. I think it was all done in Chicago, and they put the track together. They sent it to me. I had some ideas. I mixed it. I sang a couple different parts on it. But the impetus of that was like Daniel Witkoff, cool. Yeah, for putting it together. Yeah.
And what are your thoughts on the Sincerely record, like as a whole? Like how would you sort of capture where you were at in your life when you made it, and like what does it sort of represent for you?
Yeah, Sincerely was me trying to make sense of an existential crisis, pretty much. That whole album.
What inspired the existential crisis?
A series of events. It started with me getting really close to my friend Carlos Reyes, who ended up shooting all my video content for that whole cycle. We pretty much came to LA at the same time, and he was like the visual eye for my project and my best friend. We went to college together. But as we got closer, he was someone that showed me the reality of the world. Like up until that point, I was very naive and very innocent and very sheltered. And I got to see the world through his eyes, and it was scary because it disagreed with a lot of the beliefs that I held about the world. So that was happening.
You mean like less, almost like privileged, or?
A little less privileged. I mean, but I mean also realizing like, you know, the corruption in the world, realizing the disparity and the lack of equality and how many people are living in poverty, understanding the world a little bit more. That was like the first part of it. The second part of it was smoking more weed and having some like freakouts when you're stoned, you know, just being like, wait, what's real? Or wait, is there a God? Or, you know, things like that. Yeah, I think at that point I had just sort of blindly accepted that there was a giant wizard in the sky watching over us all, and I was special and loved, and everything was going to be okay. I never put that into question.
Well, that's Virginia a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's yeah, for sure. The real impetus to this all was, I think I've used the word impetus now like 6 times. I love that word.
The word of the day. It's a good word.
It's a great word. What propelled that album was specifically one really, really fucked up acid trip.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, just absolute hell.
That inspired our first single, so.
Yeah, I mean, it was like a shattering of my entire belief system, my entire sense of self.
Was it your first trip?
No, it was my third, actually. My first one was amazing, which is why I did it again.
Yeah.
My second one was amazing, which is why I did it again. And then my third one was amazing. And the weirdest part was like I was done tripping. Like I had this beautiful, it was Halloween. I had just moved to LA. I took the acid in an apartment with two of my friends, two of my very brand new friends. And I ended up just walking around LA on Hollywood, in like Hollywood, just seeing everybody in their costumes. And it was so fun. I was just walking around like on cloud nine, and I got back to the apartment. The trip was coming down. I remember looking in the mirror and staring at myself and being like, I wanted more out of this. Like, I'm ready for more. Like, show me more. I was like, I know that there's more to this. And then I was lying in my friend's room, and they were smoking a joint, and I started smoking this joint, and I hit it a couple times. I was coughing. Someone told a joke, a really funny joke, and I started laughing really, really hard. And then all of a sudden, it was like being struck by a thunderbolt, dude. Like, I was just beamed with this like insane like sensation, like almost orgasmic, but so intense that it was uncomfortable. And then began this whole weird unfolding of events that is just beyond my understanding, and it scared me. And
like internally or externally?
Internally. Nothing external was, I mean,
for everybody else, you were just sort of sitting on the couch, like looking up at the
Well,
ceiling.
no, I was freaking out. They knew I was freaking out. They definitely knew I was freaking out. But it was like a really important moment, because I witnessed the power of our imaginations and how we can project our emotions into reality, and we can see the world through any lens we want. And for me, during that, it was like I was seeing the world through paranoia and fear. And that which I didn't understand was evil. It wasn't just, I couldn't just accept it as I don't understand this. It scared me, and I couldn't let go. And
that was what you were experiencing while, like, that
was what I was experiencing during that trip. Yeah. But I like, specifically a couple things happened that were so bizarre and seemed so real that when the trip ended, I was like, I no longer saw things that way, but I was like, maybe that's how it really is, and this is all just a lie, and I'm like cursed, and this is like life is a horrible nightmare. And
that's what I always found so interesting about acid. Like, people often say like they don't, like, the big argument for not taking it is often like, I don't want to lose control. I'm like, I don't know how to tell you. You're almost like more in control than you've ever been, but that's the scary part. Like, that you suddenly like understand, like you understand, you're able to kind of like peel back the layers a little bit more, and you have a language for actually being able to talk about really abstract things. Like, I remember my first trip, any question that I couldn't answer, anything that was too big to kind of understand, I would just call it the big thing. Like, it wasn't God, or it wasn't spirituality or whatever. Right. It was just like, it was almost telling myself, like, don't get tripped up on those big questions, because you're going to go in circles. You're going to like go down rabbit holes, and you are needed. Like, you're important to the people around you, and you're needed to be there with them. And I think that was cool. Like, but yeah, oftentimes, like, I feel like when you're done with the trip and you look back on it, like, you obviously don't feel the same way that you do, but you remember, oh, like, there was a different way I could have looked at everything. Like, when we tripped together, we passed a tree that we pass every day outside like our house.
And it was like the most fucking beautiful tree in the world. Like, you just wanted to look at it for hours.
But it was more, what I loved about like how Noah like looked at it was that it was just, that tree always was there. And it wasn't so much like, oh, look at this beautiful tree, I'm tripping. It's like, this tree has always been beautiful, and we don't look at it.
Exactly.
We don't like take the time, because we filter so much stuff like in our kind of like everyday life. So I definitely understand like the existential.
Yeah. Well, so what happened to me was that the trip was so overwhelming and unbearable and scary that when it ended, I had to totally rebuild my relationship with my thinking mind, because my thinking mind was the part of me that was projecting these horrible parts of reality and making all these fucked up connections. You know, like, our minds are so creative, dude. It can take 10 things that are unrelated, and if you give it its full power, it can connect things in any way that you want. Thankfully, I had a meditation practice. And I had been meditating for a while, so I understood like how to step back and in the relationship between awareness and thinking. And my meditation process incredibly deepened through this experience, because it was like the only.
You had to rely on it.
It was the only way out. Yeah, it was like my only relief from it. Yeah, so began the process of a lot of meditating and coming and making sense of things, and then creating this album and expressing and finding answers and coming to terms with things through making this music.
I mean, I think the record's reflective of that. I like the title too, Sincerely, because it is coming from that real kind of raw place, but it's also like, you know, kind of the end of the letter. Like, here's my thoughts. sincerely.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Like this is it's coming from the heart, but also like contain the thing. And not to sort of harp on some of the life-changing kind of lows, but you did mention you had Lyme disease, and that was somewhat recent.
Sort of. It's becoming less and less recent. Summer of 2016 was when the symptoms started getting really bad, and then by the end of that year, I was back home seeing a doctor, recovering.
Do you have a hunch as to like, where the bug literally came from?
Yeah, I mean, no. The doctors seemed to think that I was bit when I was like way younger and that it was dormant. But the medical community doesn't acknowledge that as being a possibility, which is why this whole thing was like a massive mindfuck. It's possible that when I was on tour earlier that year in the East Coast, I could have gotten bit and gotten it. Because it's all over that part of the world.
Have you made kind of a full recovery, or do you still find...
I mean, I've made a full recovery. I feel incredibly healthy. I'm active. I sleep great. I don't have any of the symptoms that I did have. Obviously, going through an experience like that changes a lot. So before getting Lyme and after getting Lyme, it was hard to like I was healthy, but I couldn't be like, I'm back to how I was. Because I'm a changed person.
Right.
There's really no way to know, man. I don't
when
notice.
It started to
I don't
hit you
feel
that it was
any.
going to be something that was going to like kind of change what you had to do. Like you said, you had to go home. Like at what point did it like hit that? Oh, this is like a thing, and this is gonna. And how did that kind of like affect your mental?
I mean, the first symptom I started feeling severely was like severely itchy skin. So I remember being in Joshua Tree in the desert. Everything's going as planned. Like music's going really well. I'm about to play festivals. I'm only excited and everything external in my life is going well. But then I like can't sit with myself because I'm just so severely itchy and I can't sleep and I can't do anything. And it's just like, I can't get away from it. So that was when I was like, all right, I need to do something. Cause I just like wasn't sleeping. I was waking up every hour and having to take like a really cold shower to like numb my skin.
Jeez.
So I knew like by the end of that summer, I was like, all right, so I got to figure out what's going on. My parents actually came and visited and they saw how bad of shape I was in. And they helped me find a doctor.
Well, I'm glad you're better now. Like, I'm glad, like that's...
Yeah, we got to take care of our bodies are our temples, man.
Hell yeah.
The hardest part about getting sick with anything is accepting how little control you have over a situation. And that was like a massive change in my life, was having such a direct contact with a physical, tangible force that was out of my control. And like, some of it was in my control, find a good doctor, do what she tells you to do, and try and stay positive. But in terms of getting better, it's like, there's no guarantee, and I don't actually have control over this.
It's patience. It's a weird patience.
Yeah,
it's a weird patience for sure.
It's kind of what we're all in now, like globally, and we're just having to accept like we can control some parts about this, but the vast majority of it we cannot. Yeah, we just have to make the most of what we're given.
Well, I think when you experience like sickness or any sort of sudden traumatic accident or something like that, once you've accepted it and have made sense of it, I think you're a lot more better equipped for the unknown and being able to handle not like the concept that we're not guaranteed like a tomorrow. Like we just have to make the most out of every moment. Because like at any point I could just get bit by another tick and get Lyme disease and have to go through all again. Or at any point the sun could have a solar flare and we all die. Or like, there's always the threat of total annihilation on all of us always. And like I think once you go through something like getting sick, you realize that that's always there. And there's a power to accepting that, I think.
I was terrified of ticks as a kid. And I went to camp at like a nature preserve where there were ticks. I would have to get checked for ticks every day coming home from camp.
Scary, dude.
It was, but that's the thing too, is at a certain point, and I was a hypochondriac as a kid too. I think Osmosis Jones freaked me out. I remember at a certain point, I know that was the thing, is like, the idea that like this microscopic thing could just kill you. And I think that at one point, maybe it was my dad or a friend or somebody was just like, listen, man, like everything's going to kill you. Like you either spend your whole time worrying about stuff or you be smart, but like just kind of stay positive. You know, and just kind of like chalk it up to another big thing. Yeah,
that's it, man.
We could have like a sun flare, but like there's not gonna be a life worth losing if I'm waking up every day worrying about the sun.
Exactly, brother. That's precisely the point. I mean, life isn't worth living if you're just going around holding on to everything, holding on for dear life, hoping that you get to stay alive so that you get to live more of this grasped, controlled, desperate life.
I'm with it. I really appreciate your like mentality on that stuff too. I feel like recently I've been just trying to like grasp onto some of the stuff that we're talking about today. And I think of everything, that's just a very good place to be in, because it just, it provides almost like a foundation where like anything can kind of grow off of it, you know, like you accept the good with the bad and you're not focusing on either too much, you know?
Yeah. That's cool.
I don't have a great segue for my next question, but I love your collaboration with Pell and also with Gray. How did you meet them, and how did those two songs come to be?
Let's see. Pell was a random session that my manager set up.
Pell's nuts. He's so good.
So good, man. So good. Super homie too. He showed up like 3 hours late. Then he showed up and it was Pell, and I was like, all right, he's cool. And we went into my studio. I had just gotten a drum set, and I'm a drummer, so I was really excited about that. And I was like, why don't I just start playing some drums? I'll record this, and like when I catch a groove that you're feeling, like we'll know. And I started playing drums, and I stumbled into this rhythm. It's like the drums for that song. And he was like moving to it. And then he kind of just starts like rapping. And I start drumming, and I chop it up. I put it in time. And then I actually remember going and like playing some like super sad shit over it. And he's like, bro, it's Friday. Are you sad? I was like, no, I'm not actually. I'm really happy. He's like, let's write some happy shit. And I went to the guitar and started playing those chords. They just kind of work with my first instinct. And he loved it, and there was just a major vibe. We caught a rhythm, and it just all happened that day, pretty much.
I love that, and I feel like, you know, we've gotten that note before. Just like, are you guys good? Like, it's a good day. Like, don't.
I feel like my fingers just tend to play sad stuff no matter what I'm feeling, and I have to like retrain my brain to be like, oh, you can make stuff that sounds less sad if you just try a little harder.
My mom calls sometimes. She's like, have you guys written a happy song yet? Have you guys done that? Like, you know, do you know how to?
That's hilarious.
Like, just checking in.
Yeah.
But also, like Gray's Chameleon record, what I love about that record is that like there's Anthony Green on there, there was Avril Lavigne on there, like it was like an electronic but almost like pop punk record too.
Yeah, really like guitar driven, like grungy kind of record.
I love that EP, dude.
Yeah, it's a really interesting.
It's so cool. How did you meet? Because we met you while you were hanging out with Kyle was there.
Yeah. Kyle's like my main guy. He's like my best friend.
Oh, that's awesome. And so is that how you met Dwilly?
Yeah, I met Dwilly through Kyle. Yeah.
Cool.
Exactly.
Cool. How did These Roots come to be?
These Roots, yeah. They well, I had met them before I went to Joshua Tree. My managers again set up a session, and they came over, and we pretty much just played Super Smash Bros for like 6 hours. I don't think
Who do you main? Who do they main?
That's well, we were playing N64, which is like now. I mean, Kyle is literally like top 20 in the world for Super Smash N64.
Holy shit.
And after living with him and Michael's not too far behind him, and after living with both of them, I started getting really, really good, and I went to some tournaments. I'm like maybe top 50 now. But I haven't been playing in a while. But yeah, we have an obsession with Smash.
Wait, you guys used to be roommates?
Yeah, we lived together after this. So
cool.
They came over. We just we were just on the same frequency, really connected with them quickly. We hung out a couple times. I went to Joshua Tree. They came out to Joshua Tree towards the end, and we started These Roots out there.
That's awesome.
I was working on my second album. Yeah, I mean, we pretty much just played Smash and went on hikes, but we actually started that song as well. Yeah, and then I went home to get better, and the song kind of just like was dead. We weren't going to do anything with it. I ended up like revoicing. I ended up like playing that piano part over it. Originally, it was written on a guitar, and I like changed the key, and then I sent it to them, and then they like produced the drop, sent it to me. I produced the second verse, sent it to them. They spiced up the second verse, sent it to me. I started working. It was just like this amazing passing back and forth. And it was so cool to like, because at that point I had never gotten something from another person and listened to it. That was something I was working on and got like so excited about it. I was just like, these guys are fucking good at what they do. And it's so nice to be like collaborating with them.
It's what we were talking about at the beginning, put into motion. It's like just building hype. Like, you know, a song could die, but if you resurrect it and then keep that kind of hype going for like, you know, new parts and more interesting parts. But also, yeah, what always really inspired us about Gray was just that, like, as sound designers, like in the traditional film sense, it was always cool how they brought in such interesting effects from like sound design libraries and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah.
It was especially a big deal in like I Miss You, but then obviously the middle and everything, like just having sounds that we weren't necessarily used to. So
I Miss You. Is that the one with Bahari?
Yeah.
That song's so fire, dude.
That's a great song.
So good.
Sasha Sloan's song.
Sasha Sloan wrote it.
Yeah.
Oh, did she really? Oh, that's crazy. I
Yeah.
didn't know that. She's an incredible songwriter, dude.
She's an insane songwriter. But yeah, really like the song. I was curious how those collaborations came to be. We have a question. This is our first like Patreon question. Like one of our subscribers, Alan C, wanted to know about your headspace around Voyeur Girl off your second record. Like where you were at when you made that song.
That's awesome. Yeah, so Voyeur Girl is specifically about one person. It was the girl that I was sort of dating at the time. And she probably is like a voyeur. She just really likes watching people and watching things. And like one of our favorite things to do would be like sit somewhere in LA with like a tea or a coffee outside and just like watch people on the sidewalk and like stare at people and like imagine their lives. And she loved watching me. She just like wanted to watch me do things. And at the same time, our relationship felt very much like this game we were playing with each other. Like it was an act. Like we were like took on these personas and became these characters. And it was like this fantasy world that we lived in.
Well, if you know you're being watched, it's hard not to like take that into account.
Yeah. It was like every time I was with her, I felt like I wanted to entertain her and lean into her sort of romanticism over life and things. And it gave me a lot of power and it gave me a lot of confidence. There was a power in her eyes and in the way that she looked at me. Yeah, the song's just sort of about this relationship I had with her. I mean, there were some really divine things that happened, some really unexplainable things and feelings of connection. And
well, hey, it's an awesome song, and I appreciate Alan C, if you're listening, for asking. Yeah. You just released a single off of your upcoming record. What's the upcoming record called?
The album's called Akrasia.
Cool. What's I Never Stay in Love about for you? Like what inspired that, and what is this sort of, because it seems each project has sort of encaptured like a kind of realization or part in your life. Is this record in a similar place, or is it like what kind of inspired the whole project?
Yeah. Well, the whole album is called Akrasia. Akrasia is a word that means the state of mind in which we act against our better judgment through weakness of will. I know that's a lot, but
I like when one word can mean a lot, like a lot of words.
Is it Greek? It sounds Greek.
Yeah, I heard Sam Harris say it at a. I went to go see him, and he was talking to a Tibetan monk, and they used that word. And essentially, what it is like us giving into instant gratification. Us giving into our primal, maybe not necessarily even primal, but like giving into our desires that we know maybe aren't the best for us. And we know that choice B is better in the long term, but we choose A over B because it feels good in the moment. And
we can't necessarily abstract long term particularly well.
Yeah, I mean, human beings, we're pretty bad at it, dude, right?
Yeah. As a species, it's not really our
But we're good enough at it to have it be a conflict. That's why I really like that word and that sentiment, because it's kind of like fundamental to who we are as people, that we like, even though we know better, we tend to make these choices.
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting. You guys, I mean, every time I talk about this, I learn more about it, actually, so this is fun. What you just said about, like, we're not really designed for long-term abstraction or being truly prudent. And it makes sense because, like, all of our survival instincts, all of our, like, primal primitive functions are sort of like moving towards warmth. It's like mating, hunting, eating. That's how we lived. We didn't have to like plan out too much. We didn't like have like a vision for where we were going to be in a year. It was just like, how can I survive today? And how can we survive for another week? Like that's how we're conditioned. And as we've grown and evolved, we now have the ability to abstract and to think and to plan and to, in a way, transcend our primal desires and our primal functions.
I think the bridge between like primal mentality and modern mentality that still kind of twists the knife of not being able to think long term is the fact that we as a species are capable of experiencing boredom. I've always felt that boredom is this thing that drives us to in the moment decide like what it is that we're doing, and that any kind of long-term thinking that we have is oftentimes to kind of like offset a type of boredom.
The type of boredom we have with the current moment. Yeah.
Once you get, and obviously being able to exist outside of survival is a privilege, but once you manage to get to a point where you are outside of survival, where you're not worrying necessarily about like warmth or shelter or food and all that stuff. The next thing is like you are fed and in your house and you're staring eternity, like you're staring the rest of your life down with nothing to do. Now what? And I feel like that's why oftentimes we make these decisions, because to be bored in a moment is a terrifying thing.
Or
something
you
have to build.
Right?
Yeah, you have to build a relationship with.
Well, boredom is an incredible power too to utilize. I mean, I find that if I'm lacking clarity and I feel scattered and I feel just like there's a million things pulling me in a million different directions, I just drive out to the desert, and for 2 or 3 days I totally detach and I dopamine fast and I bore myself into clarity.
Wow.
And I think there's a lot of power in sitting with your boredom. And what happens when you allow yourself to be bored is the level of stimulation you need to not be bored just lowers and lowers and lowers and lowers, to the point where now the mundane is fascinating. And just seeing a bird fly by or breathing or going on a walk are like, it's like having sex. It's like, it's incredible. And that's part of what causes Akrasia too, is that our brains are being hijacked from all these reward system things like social media and video games. And there's just like the level of stimulation in our society is so high
that we crave it constantly.
And there's nothing that really gives us that amount of instant gratification that's like natural. It's all technology that does it for us, and drugs.
And it wants something out of us too, which is always something that is both sinister but also something I'm pretty complicit with. Like, I know that like a video game's ability to keep me entertained but also keep me needing to continue to be entertained is to separate me from my money eventually. But at the same time, like, I am happy to give that money if it means not kind of like staring down, an hour or whatever. You don't have to suffer from Akrasia.
Yeah.
Which is a word I just learned.
Yeah.
But
you're going to lose everyone every time you use it because nobody knows what it means. Although maybe that's my job. I'm going to spread the news.
But yeah, no, I really like your not to ping pong a little bit, but no, I really like I Never Stay in Love. I think it's a really, really cool single, and I think it's using really interesting sound design, but it's also expanding on your sound. It's like it's growing. It feels like a maturation of what you've been developing. How did that song kind of come to be?
That song came about. It started one morning. I was doing sound design, actually. I had just gotten back from Thailand. I had just moved into this house. I think I was here maybe for 2 weeks writing songs. And I was like, I need to make some more sounds because like I just need more inspiration to pull from. So I was fucking around with an Ableton synth called Wavetable. And I was doing what I always do, which is like running really low harmonic, like sine wave kind of stuff into distortions and just seeing how things react and fucking around with filters and things. And that main synth part that comes in after the piano was like the sound I was making. And in the process of designing it, I wasn't even thinking. I was just like playing notes. And I was pretty much more or less playing the part in the song. And I had the doors open and the birds were singing, and I was like, I'm just going to lay this down. Let's see what happens. And I laid it down, and I did a little bit more sound design with that in there, and I started using those sounds. And pretty soon I had like that whole build-up section going into the drop. And then I started laying down drums, and I remember singing the bass line. And I was like, what if I play that on bass? And then so came the instrumental. I think I did that full arrangement was pretty much done in like 24 hours with like most of the melodies too.
I like how you bring in sort of what's around you into your songs too. I like, Crossfire opens with like somebody crying. Like, I think it's really cool, like the way that there is a level of organic or almost like a time capsule vibe to like taking what's in the moment.
Yeah, well, here's what I'm noticing about music, and anybody who is witnessing or experiencing an art, the job of the artist is to try and pull the listener into what you were feeling, like, and pull them into that space. Like, I mean, that's when we feel a connection to any art, it's because we can personally relate to it and we can understand what they were feeling. And so I think like recording things in the room, and you're just helping somebody understand what was like the moment like where this idea came about. How can I get more and more inside your head so I can understand this and connect with it?
We're professional time travelers.
Yeah, I mean,
we have to exist in that time and then bring people back with us. No, it's great. I'm looking forward to your record.
You ready for the question round?
Hit me.
All right. First question is, what is your phone background?
It's a shot of me at Coachella lying next to this girl that I fell in love with for a day. We're both tripping on mushrooms, pretending to be riding a bicycle up into the moon.
Whoa, that's fun.
That's
You're a Coachella love affair. I love that. Do you have any non-musical hobbies, I guess, other than hiking and rock climbing?
I mean, meditation. It's got to
good
be
one.
like the biggest hobby. Yeah. Video games, I love. Rock climbing, anything competitive.
Are you like do you play soccer and like that?
I did.
That stuff
I played soccer my whole life. Yeah.
Nice.
I haven't played in forever though, dude.
Are there any skills that you would like to have?
Yeah, all of them.
Yeah, big vibe.
I'm with it.
I do really wish I could draw. That'd be sick.
Oh, same.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about that today.
Yeah, it's just not where the skill points were allocated on my character. I just like my actual handwriting is terrible. My like freehand drawing ability is
I wish I had one visual ability, but no, it doesn't.
Do you think it works
doesn't
like that?
count.
Do we have like a certain amount of points we allocate, and like as you start to learn one thing, you just forget something else?
Maybe. I mean, there's something to be said about like thermodynamics and entropy and opportunity cost. Like anytime you spend doing something, it's time you're not spending doing something else. But like some
Yeah.
people are like really genuinely good at so many things.
What
and,
really,
like,
yeah, what bothers me is like I am a really quick learner, and if I just put a little bit more energy into things, I could probably know a lot more if I just spent the time. But like I just don't. There's so many things I could spend an hour a day learning, and I just don't, and I don't know why. It's Akrasia, you know.
Yeah.
Well,
It's like why not?
I think though, there's something to be said about like when you're a kid, like the plasticity of your brain.
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
how
You're
I know there are plenty
spongy.
of kids who just like learned how to draw and learned how to do all these things young, so that those were skills that kind of stayed, and that's why I'm glad we did music young. And like,
Yeah.
I definitely wrote a lot, like poetry and stuff when I was young, so I feel comfortable in that space. Even just like I answered the phone when I was 4, and just like being able to build that skill set
Yeah.
from a young age or whatever. But yeah, I never really drew, and so now to actually learn, it's much more of an uphill battle. And it's like not just like your brain learning like to remember stuff, but even just getting your hand to be still and and get all that stuff down. So I think it comes down to, again, those decisions that were made by some third party when you were 4 years old.
Yeah. All right. Most important question of the question round: would you be a pirate?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I kind of already am a pirate, so.
There we go.
There's something to be said for that. You definitely got the look down. You got the beard and the long hair. All you need is like a parrot and an eye patch, and you're set.
And I need to give someone my leg.
I think when we met at Moroccan, we were like comparing like hair lengths, because my hair was a lot longer.
We'd be a good pirate duo, my man.
I think we'd be a great pirate duo.
I could be like the gregarious pirate who's like the good cop, and you could be like the really evil, like fucked up, like cynical one. I don't know.
I feel like we would like play off of each other. Like I think we
Right.
would try to convince the other one that the other one was like the evil one. So we both play like nice pirate, bad pirate, and just like
I like it.
'cause at the end of the day, we just got to keep our ship in line.
Right.
No, and I think we're dedicated to economic equality. So we steal from the rich, we give to the poor.
We're like Robin Hoods. Okay.
Yeah,
I like that.
I'm with it. What would our ship be called? The Akrasia Lion.
The Akrasia.
The Akrasia Lion.
That's our ship.
Sounds like a German tavern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a European like dive bar.
Do you have any tattoos?
I've got 2, very insignificant. I have the date that I moved to Los Angeles on my arm.
I love
Nice.
that.
It's like a commitment date to dropping out of school, and the guy who brought me out here has the same date as the day we met.
Oh, nice.
And then I have an 11 on my hand, which I got in Brazil with my friend Evie, and her and I both have a strong connection to the number 11. It's a symbol for us that means a lot of different things. So
Cool.
I only have tattoos that I've gotten with other people, like matching tattoos. It's pretty cute.
Well, I like that they're numbers with significance. I've said on the podcast around this question too that I would have a hard time with like pictures, because I feel like for pictures I'm always I just don't have a grasp on like quality in that sense.
Right.
But like numbers that have significance.
It's pretty
either
timeless.
to people or places. That feels pretty timeless for me.
Yeah, definitely.
There's an objectivity to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What was the first concert you ever attended?
Oh gosh, what was the first concert I ever attended? How can I not even? Why don't I know this?
In lieu of that question, I have that guy Sam. He goes by Out There. He wanted to know if you had an all-time favorite song or what you're listening to right now that you're really into.
All time favorite. Oh well, I don't have an all time favorite. There's no way. I liked way too much music.
That's an impossible question, though. I don't know. I feel like I always go back to "Ain't It Fun" by Paramore.
I just discovered this Paramore's so sick. I just discovered this artist yesterday, but his name's Boy Life. He's got 2 songs out.
Oh, yeah. He's got the song Peas. Yeah, it came up on my Discover. It's sick. His stuff's really interesting. He's part of a band.
I wonder what the band's called. Dude, this shit's insane. I mean, both of these songs, Peas and Bummy, are masterpieces. I want to know how much time he spent on these. I want to know.
I gotta check it. It sounds,
dude.
Yeah, just really interesting indie stuff.
It's indie. Yeah, dude. I mean, it's embracing so many current modern things that's happening in music. And he's putting them together so seamlessly, and the dude is just dripping with
really talented.
Do you know where he's based out of?
He's in
LA.
I
have no idea. I haven't asked him.
Well, hey, we're rooting for you guys to collab.
I don't see. The thing is when I discover something like that, I don't even want to collab with them because I don't want to taint it. I just want to admire from afar.
I feel that way about the songwriting. There are plenty of people where I'm just like, you don't like. As much as I would love to like be a part of whatever it is you're doing, I don't think I can add anything. Like you've got a great thing.
I can't. There's literally nothing I can add to this. I mean, maybe if we meet and we become homies and one day it happens, that's cool. But like, man.
Plus, it's nice being a fan in this stuff. Like, I feel like,
I think that's something we need.
We've been lucky enough to become friends with people and lucky enough to like also have a musical education to be able to analyze songs and sort of pick stuff apart. But to be able to just like sit and enjoy something and not feel the need to be a part of it is really like a blessing at this point.
What the curse that we all have is the competitive side of ourselves. And when we hear something that's so good that we fucking love it, but we're also angry that like, we're like, damn.
Why didn't I do that?
Why didn't I make that? Or like, damn, this makes my shit feel so like short or whatever. So it's a difficult conundrum and like it's interesting to see how you handle those feelings when you hear music. Sometimes you hear music that's really good, but it's so different than your music. You're like, oh, that's fine. Like it's just we're not doing the same thing. But when I listen to Boy Life, I'm secretly like, fuck.
Sometimes you hear those songs and you're just like, wait, this is what I feel. This captures a feeling that I've been trying to capture in music in like a different way and like a better way, and it just makes you angry.
Right. No, but more than anything, it's insanely inspiring. And it's nice to have full songs too, like not just little parts of songs, but like full songs that you're like, wow, like I look up to this, you know?
Yeah. No, it's important. I think that's something we need as creatives, like stuff to look to and keep inspired so we're not jaded constantly by the stream of 40,000 songs that are added to Spotify every day.
Oh, yeah. Well, being jaded is the fastest route to crushing your creative energy.
Yeah, it's very true. Do you have a go-to karaoke song?
Dude, I actually have very little experience with karaoke, so not really. I mean, I probably sang some Red Hot Chili Pepper song or something.
Ooh. That's good karaoke music.
What Red Hot Chili Pepper song?
Under the Bridge or something, or like maybe one of their like more funkier things. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like I would like kind of go off on like So Much I or something like that.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
Something off Stadium Arcadium.
Yeah.
More, like crazy.
A little more upbeat for sure. Yeah, that'd be sick. Like some of the rapping stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Do you have a favorite movie, book, and TV show?
2 movies I just saw semi-recently. Magnolia by Paul Thomas Anderson.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh.
Incredible film. I also just watched Mulholland Drive, which is David Lynch movie.
David Lynch,
yeah.
I think I watched it twice now. I watched it 2 nights in a row because it's insane. Every time I watch that movie, I'm just like so inspired.
I had a big David Lynch kick in college.
Dude, the man is insane.
Is insane.
Crazy. Book, I would say... I was just reading Island by Aldo Huxley. That book's really good. I don't know if you've heard of it. I think he's more known for his other novel, which is more dystopian. This is like his depiction of a utopia and how the Western world sort of interferes with it and tries to manipulate and take advantage of it. The other book that changed my life recently. Do you guys know Eckhart Tolle?
I don't think so.
He's like a meditator guy. He has this book. I think it's called Stillness Speaks. It's a very short book. The font is like twice as big as a regular book, which I love. And I mean the dude just gets it, and his message is so simple. And yeah, I love that book. TV show. I'm really enjoying Dave right now.
Dickie show. We just finished that.
We
so fun.
Cruised through it.
So good,
man.
So good. Some episodes are definitely better than others. Like I think there were like 1 or 2 episodes that were like a little bland for me, but the ones that hit so good, dude. He nails it, man. I also really enjoyed Ozark and Devs, which is about determinism and all that stuff we were talking about.
Next question is, do you have a scar with a story?
I have a little nick on the top of my head when I was in 6th grade. I ran into a cymbal at my friend's house, like a cymbal on a drum set, and was like bleeding ferociously.
As opposed to a symbol like a fork in the road or a
yeah, exactly.
Stop sign.
Like a ride symbol. Yeah. And I swear, I think it's like Spider-Man. Like I think I got injected with with the drum spirit after that, because like the next day I started playing drums and I was like instantly really good at it. It was really weird.
Damn.
It's your origin story.
That's great.
And I've got a little burn on my hand. I like touched the hot neon thing in an oven once. The back of my hands.
We all do that once. That's how we learn.
That's evolution.
Yeah. Next question is, what are 3 thoughts you have at this moment?
I can't wait to drink some more caffeine. I'm really excited about this video I just finished up, which is a live performance of "I Never Stay in Love," and I really want to go on a walk.
It's a nice day out. It was really hot in the morning, but it's like cooled down a little bit.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's been hot. It's pretty hot in here right now, but I've just been loving walking lately. I've been looking forward to it so much. It's so clear and quiet, and everyone's like inside, and it's nice.
I've been biking for the same reason.
That's cool. I should get a bike. Damn, biking sounds so much fun.
Next question is, what are you most proud of?
I took this class in college. It was like a basic electrical engineering class, and everybody fails it their first time taking it. And I sat in the front row every fucking day at like 9 a.m. and paid attention to every single word the teacher said. I didn't give a shit about electronics. I didn't care about anything. I just wanted to like get an A. I just wanted to pass, and I ended up getting an A. And it was like one of my. Damn. I was just like, yes, like I can do anything.
Put your mind to it.
That's
I love
awesome.
that.
I feel like that sets the stage for everything else. It's like, you know, if you throw in the work, like it actually comes back to you.
Yeah, for sure.
And what's important to you?
Realness and being a real person and having real connections.
I feel that just from this conversation. I think I really appreciate that you've been real with us and you've been open with us.
Oh yeah, my pleasure.
And lastly, what are you looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to today. Honestly, I'm looking forward to all of the things that I get to do. I'm looking forward to my music coming back out into the world and re-engaging with my audience and creating something really special and meaningful for people. And I'm looking forward to continuing to like liberate myself from my own walls and my own chains and being more honest and more open and more expressive and risk-taking with my art.
That's awesome. Well, hey, Steven, we're really looking forward to your record. I think the act of listening to it won't be Akrasia. I feel like there will be long-term benefits from listening.
That's an insight.
That's the hope.
And just like, you know, hearing where your head's at with it too is really, really cool and really inspiring for us. So thank you again for being on here, man, and good luck with everything.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Yeah, thank you so much. Good luck to you too.
We would like to thank Alan C. for supporting Talking Lion on Patreon and Isotope.